Hey there traders, hope you all are doing good. In this video, I'll be reviewing yesterday's trading session where I traded 3 stocks and made a little bit over $600. I can't remember the exact number, so I'll put it on the screen. But in this trading session, I had made some good trades and some trading mistakes. So I'll be walking you guys through the preparation, game planning, and executions of these trades, and I'll also be telling you what were the good trades, but also what were the execution or trading errors or mistakes that I made so you can avoid them in your own trading as well. And before we move on to the screens, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to the live boot camp I'm running. So it's going to be a live interactive form of learning. So it's definitely not a course where you're simply consuming all the information, and it's certainly not a webinar where you're one of hundreds of people. And if you have any questions, you just type, and if you get lucky, maybe the presenter of the course just reads your questions and answer you. So it's a live interactive course, as the name suggests, and to keep it interactive, the seats are very limited, so it's only limited to a handful of people at any given point. If you have any questions, you just speak up and we communicate. It's a back and forth sort of a training, and everybody gets to learn this way, and we go through from the basics of trading all the way to advanced setups and strategies of trading. So if you're interested in trading or learning how to trade, just getting started, or if you're an intermediate, have been trading for a while but haven't seen that consistent profitability or haven't broken through, there's a link in the description below. You can get in touch, schedule a call, and we can speak directly together, and let's see where that goes. And with that being said, let's move on to the screens now. Starting off with the preparation for the day, as always, I looked at the major indexes. One was SPY, and at the preparation stage, it was sort of moving higher in the pre-market. So I did form a bias towards look for more long opportunities. And I did pay attention to the economic calendar. So later on in the day, crude oil inventories were coming out, and I wasn't trading any oil stocks or energy stocks. So that was less of a concern for me. But right before the market opened, there were jobless claims number that came out, and they came out a bit more positive. And given the current situation, any positive data is going to affect the markets negatively. So later on in the day, we did find some weakness, and we just had a sideways movement for the rest of the day. But for me, I was just on either way, but I did have a slight bias towards the long side before the data numbers came out. Nothing major was happening. IWM was kind of a similar story, gapping up, and then we sort of had a middle of the kind of nowhere sort of a day. And NASDAQ, or QQQs, which track the NASDAQ, kind of the same story. And during the preparation phase, I found 3 stocks. One was VIR, which was a healthcare stock. And the catalyst was, so they had a positive result for some sort of a tumor, but this was only phase 1. So they had good results for the study, but it was only phase 1. If it was phase 2, phase 3, or FDA approval, something like that, then I would be really looking for it to make big moves. But because of the nature of the catalyst, I was just looking for one sort of level to level trade. It was supposed to be a quick trade for me, but I didn't really get any trading opportunities on this one. It didn't really set up for me. It didn't give me any entry setup, so I didn't really trade it. Second one was eBay. This was the reason I chose this stock is because Meta has come up with a new test that where some major European countries can see eBay listings on Meta platform itself, and maybe even they can shop or something or the other. So this was really a positive news for eBay, but nothing groundbreaking. That's the reason I was just trading. It was a level 1 sort of a trade for me. And the plan for me over here was, since we pre-market over here, the plan for me was either we come down to 67, get support, and then I'm gonna try to trade it until 68 and take profits over there. Or if we break out right at the open, simple as that. Then I'm gonna wait, try to buy the breakout over here at 68.36 and try to get some profits around 70, 66. Pretty straightforward plan if in situation based on the basic technical analysis, nothing even fancy over here. And kind of the same story. This was actually my favorite stocks for the day, because this stock I chose because of the earnings. It came out with earnings, and not just earnings, but they came out much better earnings than they were expected. So they were still a company that is still losing money, but compared to what they were losing a lot less money. So, and the earnings positive surprise was about 63%. That made it a level 2 stock for me, and the plan was pretty simple again, as always. Either I buy support at 11.36 or I buy the breakout at $12 and try to target all the way to 13. But because of the market weakness, it didn't do, and we'll be going over the trades and executions in just a bit. And lastly, which was a follow through trade that I traded, which was AI. It gave me a alert. Alert just went off when it broke below 33.69s. And the plan was for me, if it just breaks out, I'm gonna short the stock, take some profits at 32. It was a one level quick sort of a trade for me. That was the plan. And going over the executions and maybe even recordings, and I'll be going over the mistakes as well, what I made, which you can avoid. So the very first trade, which was, I already had a heavy bias towards it because of the catalyst I mentioned earlier. It's already a level 2 stock. These are the sort of opportunities I'm always getting excited for because these can move big and they can make big moves. So I entered right at the breakout of 12. So we didn't really get to trade the support, but instead we got to trade the breakout at 12, and I was waiting for a setup. And if you go to 1 minute chart, it becomes a bit more clear. And market also moves a lot more faster during the open. So I entered over here, placing my stops just below this low. Now this was the mistake that I exited much earlier. If you just see me just selling out, I just exited a little bit earlier. Now this is a mistake that I've made after a really long time, because this was actually a mistake that I used to make a lot in my trading, and I practiced and try to get rid of it, rewatching my trades, rewatching key movements of my trades, and just more screen time. And I've practically gotten rid of this mistake anymore. But yeah, this was a mistake I made after a really long time. And so yeah, I exited early. My stops wouldn't have been hit. I would have still been in the trade and would have turned into a winning trade. So is a mistake. I mean, if you enter a position, if you commit to a trade, just set your stop and let the trade kind of do its thing. You know, set your stop, let it rock. So that's one mistake I did, which costed me a decent one tier sort of P&L. And as soon as it came back higher, reclaimed that level of 12 and reclaimed VWAP, I just re-entered the trade. And later on in the day, it did form a wedge pattern and then broke out, and off to the races it was. And since this was my first target and it was a level 2 trade, I took some profits over here, 50% of my profits off. Also, on a side note, I think I should have just left this trade aside because of the way it was trading pre-market. Like if it was trading smoothly and nicely, that would have made this trade a lot more better. But I could have paid more attention to this choppiness and just moved on to something else. So I took my profits over here and exited the rest on a trailing stop loss, and I just got out over here. Moving on to the second trade, which was eBay. And so this was a good trade on its own, and it really did pretty well. And it was a thick stock, so it's a proper company which also has a really high float. So something I really like, decent moving names. A lot of the traders tend to gravitate towards low floats, and I do like to trade low floats, but I also want to be careful with these low floats because they tend to fly a lot more higher. Like really, they tend to be a lot more volatile, and sometimes you just want to be careful. So I found my biggest winners to be like these slow, calm moving stocks. So as soon as eBay over here broke out and started moving higher, just gonna forward it slightly. So over here, you see, like I was waiting for my setup of VWAP. So now it did come to VWAP, tested higher, but at this point I wasn't fully prepared. I hadn't done all my position size calculations, and then I should have been prepared a lot more sooner, but I wasn't prepared. I fumbled and I chased this one a bit. So I didn't really calculate my position size, just quickly bought 200 shares right over here. So I should have been more prepared, or I should have been prepared to let it go if I'm not completely prepared. So that was a mistake. And just a little bit later, it started setting up again. And this time I was much more prepared mentally, calculated my position size, saw where my stop needs to be, and just a lot more prepared. And I'm just waiting for it to give me a perfect setup. And later on it did. Again, reclaim VWAP. I'm just waiting for it to start showing me the strength that it is coming in supporting VWAP, and we are looking to move higher. So at the same time, I'm also trading this one, ANGO. And just watch on, it comes to VWAP, starts rejecting it, the buying starts taking. If you just focus over here and see the buying just took you see all the greens and the office being hit. That was the right moment. And this was a trade the second time around. I was just a lot more prepared, and it kind of was a good trade. And if I just forward it, and it just did exactly what it's supposed to do. And 70.66, I just got out. It was a level 1 trade, just got out, took my profits, moved on to the next one. The next trade was just a really quick one, quick pop, sort of a quick day trade. And the reason for it being quick was AI. Now this was a follow through trade for me. So it had already made a big move a few days past, and it was starting to range, and I was just waiting for it to break this range, and maybe it could give me like a 1 or 2 point sort of move. I just usually set some alerts, and yesterday was a day that the alert just went off, and I waited for the level to be broken. And as soon as it did, it was ranging also midday. So as soon as the noon time was over, the later on in the afternoon session sort of started. It broke out this range, broke out this pattern, entered short, and although I was targeting a little bit more further, but the characteristic of tape sort of changed over here. If I just go over here, the characteristics, initially my targets were what, 30 to 41s, which we didn't really get, and the characteristic, I can't speak today, characteristic of the tape changed right over here, and instantly the buying started just coming in. So at this point I was like, okay, it could take a deeper pull back, which I wasn't willing to give away half of my profit, or it's already reached halfway to my targets, so I wasn't willing to do that. So just got out of the trade. And a lot of times I know these afternoon setups, they tend to have they don't work as well as the morning setup, so I just quickly got out. And that was it for me. I just traded until the midday, and second out of the day I didn't really trade, and just moved on to whatever I was doing, maybe sleeping after a little while. So that was the trade recap and review. Hopefully you guys found this video helpful and valuable, so you can see the trades that are good and also some of the mistakes, so which you can take the good and implement that in your own trading, and see my mistakes and try to avoid them with your own trading as well. And I also know that these videos are not always the most streamlined videos, because I don't script them. I just like to go off like I'm talking to somebody, like a friend or someone. So yeah, hopefully you guys can appreciate that. And if you did find this video useful or valuable for your own trading, consider hitting the like button. If you didn't, and show some show me that as well by hitting the dislike button. And if you want to see more trading content, consider subscribing to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Take it easy.